So the Saudis moved extremely quickly over the weekend to reschedule the Usyk-Fury fight for May 18th. They obviously know how disappointed many boxing fans are and how skeptical they are about what has transpired. In an attempt to try and win public confidence, Turki Al-Sheikh has said that if there are any more pullouts, the fighter responsible will be fined, basically, $10 million. Tyson Fury has now appeared on video with Turki Al-Sheikh. You can see the cut, it's been stitched up. And that's important to see because with Tyson Fury, you can't take anything at face value. It really is the classic case of the boy who cried wolf, a man who's lied so many times and to such an extent that if he told you Tuesday comes after Monday, you'd have to look at the calendar and check. That's how thoroughly he's gaslit the public. So we know he's been cut, but the circumstances behind it, we can only speculate about. As I've said in every video I've done on this topic previously, it could well be a genuine accident. If it was any other fighter, I'd say 99% sure that's exactly what's happened. But with it being Tyson Fury, and with the timing being so unlikely, I can't be so sure. Because I was damn near certain that this fight was going to go ahead in February. So many of my subscribers were telling me that it wouldn't, but I was like, nah, it'll go ahead. So I was surprised. At this late hour, Fury pulled out. I thought if he's going to pull out, it'll be much further out from the fight date. And then you got the fact that he's received this terrible cut when ostensibly he was wearing headgear. Now, George Groves and Carl Froch were talking about this incident on the show they do together on YouTube. I think it's on Froch's YouTube channel. Bear in mind, these two guys have been boxing since they were kids. So they've got combined boxing experience of what, 40 years or something like that? Countless fights, untold thousands of rounds of sparring between them, and also sparring that they've witnessed over the years. And with all that experience, decades and decades of boxing experience, Carl Froch said, and George Groves agreed, that that is the worst cut they have ever seen in sparring. In all these decades of being involved in sparring and watching sparring, they have never seen a cut as bad as that. Now, I cut a guy as bad as that in a sparring session once, but we weren't wearing headgear and we were body sparring. If you're not wearing headgear, then obviously cuts like that can happen. But in terms of wearing headgear, I've never seen that kind of cut in sparring. And again, these two guys, far more experienced than me, Carl Froch and George Groves, they've never seen anything like it. The circumstances are just so unlikely. Yes, there's the footage. People say that the guy hits Fury with an elbow. Well, you can't really tell from that angle because Fury's back is to the camera. The way perspective works, you can't tell whether he gets hit with an elbow in the eye. He gets hit with what looks like a left. Is it a hook followed up by the elbow? Again, you can't tell from that angle. I'm not dismissing the possibility that that right there was genuinely the moment when Fury got caught. I'm not dismissing it, but because of the unlikely timing of it and Fury's history, I have to ask the questions. I'd be remiss if I didn't. Froch and Groves are certainly asking questions. Groves is one of these fighters among the many who said he never thought the fight was going to go ahead. And both of them are still kind of skeptical about whether the fight will go ahead in May. And the skepticism that all these fighters have, Sean Porter's another one, is about Tyson Fury. It's not about Usyk and his intentions. Most people have figured out by now that Alexander Usyk is fully on board with this fight. There is no apprehension on his part whatsoever, and there never was. He's been trying to make this fight for over 2 years. The apprehension has all been on Tyson Fury's part. Now, when Fury appeared in that video, shouting and screaming, I don't buy Fury's energy. He's trying to make out as though he's really confident and all this type of stuff. Oh, Usyk was going to be in trouble. To me, Fury still comes across like a desperate man. In fact, when I saw him sat next to Turki Al-Sheikh, I was getting Foreman and Zaire vibes from him. I think Fury don't want to be there. Even if the cut was a genuine accident, which may well be the case, the same as it may well have been the case that Foreman was caught by a genuine accident in Zaire, I think Fury wants to get the hell out of there the same way that Foreman wanted to get the hell out of Zaire. That's the vibes I'm getting from him. With Tyson Fury, the louder he is, the more nervous he is. And you're always somewhat nervous going into particularly a big fight. That's normal. And you need that to some extent to make you sharp. But Tyson Fury's loudness and his trash talking has been off the scale in the run-up to this Usyk fight. I've never seen him like this before. As far as I'm concerned, this is a measure of how much more nervous he is for this fight than he has been for any other fight in his entire career. And it's not that Usyk is the most dangerous knockout puncher he's ever come up against. No, I think it's down to the fact that Fury is physically not what he was a few years ago. And that's what's really making him nervous. Obviously, he knows how good Usyk is, but he's wondering whether physically he's up to the task. And there are still these people who can't wrap their heads around the concept of a fighter not being afraid of his opponent, but being afraid of losing. There are still people saying, it's ridiculous to suggest that Fury's scared of Usyk. It's ridiculous, guys. He's not scared of anyone. No one's saying he's scared of Usyk the man or taking punches off Usyk in the ring. No. Tyson Fury is scared of losing his O, the ramifications of no longer being unbeaten. He likes being able to hoodwink the public and do his pound shop Floyd Mayweather routine. He knows that if he loses, all of that is over. And that in order to get back that status as best heavyweight in the world, he's going to need to fight people that he maybe doesn't want to fight. Other people that could potentially beat him. And he doesn't want to do that. He's worked his way into a position by taking certain tough fights, yes, credit to him for that, but also by avoiding some fights and picking certain opponents very cleverly and carefully. The right fights at the right time. And in doing so, he managed to, at least at one point, convince the majority of the boxing public that he was the best heavyweight in the world when he hadn't even fought most of the best heavyweights out there. At that point, Tyson Fury was thinking, wow, I've sussed it. I've cracked it. People are saying I'm the best heavyweight of all time now. Sylvester Stallone's coming out saying I'm the greatest heavyweight of all time. At which point Tyson Fury had only had like 5 world title fights or something. 3 of them against the same guy. He could not believe how well his ploy was working. Fighting Chisora in a trilogy fight on pay-per-view, getting millions and millions of dollars for it. I mean, honestly, he was laughing all the way to the bank. He's scared of losing that situation, of losing that setup. He's not scared of Usyk the man. He's not scared of taking a punch off anyone. He's scared of losing that setup he has, losing that position, because he knows how difficult it was to get to that position. All of the maneuvering that it took, all of the time that it took, and the tough moments in fights that it took to get there. When I look at Tyson Fury in the run-up to this Usyk fight, if it even goes ahead on May 18th, and by the way, the delay obviously helps Tyson Fury more than Usyk. I know Fury's got a cut, but it allows him to get in better shape. Carl Froch also pointed out that the very brief sparring footage that we saw looks sloppy from Fury. That didn't look like a guy that was sharp. So whether the cut was self-inflicted or not, the timeout I think definitely benefits the Gypsy King, because Usyk was ready to go. Based upon that sparring footage, the Gypsy King did not look ready to go to me. You got these jokers like Gareth A. Davis talking about how great a shape Tyson Fury looked in and he had a six-pack. Tyson Fury hasn't had a six-pack probably in his whole life. The closest I ever saw to it was in the run-up to the David Haye fight, which didn't happen. So all the six-pack talk, cut it out. And regardless of what he looked like aesthetically, in that sparring footage, he looks sloppy as hell. When I look at Tyson Fury in the run-up to this Usyk fight, he looks like a man that has been completely consumed by the forces of darkness. His eyes, the way he talks, his demeanor, everything about him looks like a man who's not in a good place. There's a disconnect between what's coming out of his mouth, this bravado, and the body language, and the tone of his voice and everything to me. You look at Fury in the run-up to this fight and compare him to Usyk in the run-up to this fight. Try and tell me that Fury looks like he's in a better place mentally than Alexander Usyk. To me, he looks like a desperate man. Would he be desperate enough to cut his own eye to try and get out of the fight? I can't guarantee you that. It is a preposterous thing to do, and ordinarily I would say it's a preposterous thing to claim that somebody's done. But if people are desperate enough, I mean, even with the money on the line, what means more to Tyson Fury? The money or his reputation as the best heavyweight in the world and greatest of all time? Sometimes when you've made a certain amount of money, and he could still make money even if the Usyk fight was cancelled completely, right? He could go off and defend his WBC belt against other people. Certain times fighters are willing to forfeit a bit of extra money to preserve what they have as far as their reputation, especially when they've already made enormous sums in their career. If somebody's desperate enough, never mind boxing, I mean, look at, for example, the Australian criminal, Chopper Reed, right? Cut his own ears off to escape from a prison cell. He was in a very desperate situation and he was a crazy guy. We know this. But that, of course, is far more extreme than a boxer cutting their own eye. I just use it as an example of how if a human being is desperate enough, they will inflict injuries on themselves to get out of situations. We know that self-harm is something that many people in society do or have done for different reasons, usually because of mental health problems and whatever. I personally know someone, a boxer, who was doing that to themselves. They were committing self-harm. They had scars all up and down their arm. So we're not talking about something that's completely outlandish here, people. Yeah, there are different motives for doing it, but people do this stuff. Would Fury have motive enough for doing it in this instance? Again, I'm not saying that he did, but I wouldn't put it past him. Let's just put it that way. And if it is a genuine accident, I mean, it's a genuine accident which, strangely enough, benefits him, allows him more time to get in better shape. And of course, he fought more recently than Usyk did. Now, the only other thing to talk about is the weather. At this time in the Middle East, the weather is relatively mild. By mid or late May, temperatures are a lot hotter. We're not talking about peak summer temperatures, but in springtime, yeah, the temperatures can be a lot hotter than in February. Now, presumably this is going to be in an air-conditioned arena, but if Fury wants to get out and about for his road work, you have to factor that in. Yeah, you can go on a treadmill. Some fighters don't like running on treadmills. If Fury plans to stay in Saudi, if he's even allowed to leave Saudi, right, we don't know. Is it, again, a George Foreman in Zaire situation? Who knows? But if Fury is planning to stay in Saudi, you're going to have to factor that in. Will he be able to go outside and do his road work? Will he have to do his road work inside? I'm sure they've got giant sports facilities and whatever. Maybe running tracks where Fury can do his road work. Who knows? I mean, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but I just thought I'd throw that out there because, again, the temperatures in May in Saudi Arabia are a lot different to the temperatures in February. So I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about this Usyk Fury situation, how you feel about it all, whether you think the fight is actually going to happen on May 18th, who the delay benefits. I mean, one thing that could affect it, of course, is the IBF. If they decide to impose their mandatory on Alexander Usyk, he might have to give up a belt before the Fury fight happens, or pull out the fight himself at that point. And I know there's this threat of a $10 million fine, but at this stage, I could not blame Alexander Usyk for pulling out of this fight. I couldn't blame him. He's done everything possible to try and make it. He can't put his career on hold forever for this one man. This situation has dragged on for a ridiculous amount of time at this point. What must Usyk be thinking? You know, forget about being a Fury fanboy and all this stuff. Put yourself in Usyk's shoes for a second. What must he be thinking after all this time and all these shenanigans, all this carry-on from Fury, when Usyk's been trying to make the fight for like 2 years and it still hasn't been made because of Tyson Fury? What must Usyk be thinking? I'll leave it there. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.